Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and I'm here to talk about the 15 books that define my taste. So, obviously, I just like everybody saw this trend going on Instagram, and a couple people have posted their own YouTube videos. So, I figured let's hop on this train and do my own video. Most of these, I think pretty much all of them, are romances or have a very big romance plotline. So, yeah, these technically are 15 romances that define my taste. I have broken these up in like subgenres of romance. So let's get started. The first subgenre is contemporary romances slash sports romance. And the first one is, of course, The Right Move by Liz Tom Ford. This definitely defines my taste because it is both a roommate to lover trope, which is one of my favorite things in the universe. It is a sports romance, obviously. It is a very, very caring hero who does a lot of acts of service, and it has fake dating, which obviously I also really love, and it just has a good hero, a hero that I could definitely see myself having a relationship in real life. Like, if I could get somebody half as amazing as him, I'd be the happiest girl in the world. Like, he is something I aspire to have in life. I also really love Indy. I love how she is a down-to-earth girl, that she is just like other girls. I love that, especially just like other readers. And this is honestly for me like the perfect romance. I also love the fact I tend to like hero with either a tortured past or something that happened in their past that has an impact on them, and this definitely did. There's something that happened in his past that really affected him, and therefore it affects how he sees relationship and how fast or not fast he trusts people. For those of you who don't know, this is a sports romance, follows a professional basketball player and a flight attendant. So this is a best friend's brother romance. Stevie, the heroine from the first book, is moving out of her brother's place, and her friend Indy's boyfriend recently cheated on her, so she needs a place to stay. And Stevie asks Ryan, her brother, if Indy could live with him, and he reluctantly agrees, but he wants her to move out as soon as possible, so he makes the rent really cheap, and he wants her to kind of make a plan when she's ready to move out. But obviously they do live together, they do get closer because he is a very good guy. Also, he's the captain of the basketball team, but he's a very lone wolf and doesn't really do anything other than basketball. So his general manager tells him that there's more to life than basketball, and that if he had a personal life, it would have definitely add to how he plays. So he tells him that he does have a girlfriend, and her name is Indy. So this also becomes fake dating because she pretends to be his girlfriend while they're out doing things with the team. And like I said, I really loved it. This definitely 100% defines my taste. Twisted Games by Anna Huang. This is the second book in her Twisted series, and this is, first of all, my favorite in that series, but also it 100% defines my taste because this is a bodyguard princess romance. It's not that princess stories definitely are my taste. Bodyguards, however, are. I love the different like social classes dynamic in here. I love the forbidden aspect to it because she technically needs to marry somebody of the aristocracy and he's not that. And I really love the fact that this is steamy. I'm not gonna lie, I like steamy books. That is definitely my taste. So yeah, Anna Huang knows how to write steamy scenes, and some of these definitely live in my mind rent-free. And one of my favorite movies is The Princess Diaries, and I think Princess Diaries 2 might be my actual favorite. And this is that 100% Princess Diaries coded. And that is also why I love this book, because it reminds me of something else I really love. For those who don't know, this follows Princess Bridget, and she's next in line to become the queen. And she gets assigned a new bodyguard because her original bodyguard is on paternity leave, and he wants to stay in their original country, which is like a Genovia type place. So she gets assigned a new bodyguard who's all about the rules and is no fun and is very stricter than her last bodyguard, so they constantly butt heads about her safety and what she can and cannot do. But he's also very, very hot, of course, because his name is Reese. And honestly, I think books where the hero's name is Reese also definitely define my taste, because 3 books in here have heroes whose names are Reese. But anyway, yeah, so they eventually, feelings bubble over and they cannot stay away from each other. The throne scene in here, like I said, it lives in my mind rent-free. So yeah, I love this book. If you for some reason have not read this yet, I would highly recommend it. Powerless by Elsie Silver. This is the third book in her Chestnut Spring series, and this is definitely my favorite. Yeah, so what I love about this is the tortured hero aspect. Like, I don't know why, I just love tortured heroes. I think because I want to fix, like, not fix them, but like I want to be there for them, hug them, stuff like that. I could really see myself in this heroine because of her unrequited love for Jasper. That I could definitely relate to that heroine in that aspect. I know some people don't really love the pining heroine trope. I definitely do because I can relate to those heroines. I've done my fair share of pining in my life, so I just really relate to those heroines, and it is that much sweeter when the pining turns into either mutual pining or it turns into their romance, because I just feel like they're living what I would have loved. So that is why that also defines my taste. Jasper, when he was younger, something horrible happened, and because of that, his parents completely checked out, didn't take care of him, and he almost like was homeless for a bit until one of his friends at school, Bo Eaton, takes him into his house, and the Eatons take him in as one of their sons, and he starts living with them. But the Eatons also have a cousin named Sloane, and when she was 10 years old, she saw this 15-year-old boy at her cousin's place, and she immediately fell in love with him. But because of the age gap, and because of he was still obviously struggling, and because of their ages in general, nothing happened. And she tried twice to try and get something more to happen, and twice he rejected her. So now she's moved on, she's getting married to somebody else, but meanwhile he has developed feelings for her, and he is pining for her now. On their wedding day, she realizes that her fiance has been cheating on her, so she does a runaway bride situation with Jasper. A little bit after that, they go on this road trip, and feelings finally come to light, and things finally happen, and I really loved it. This is also different social classes, and also a sports romance. So those are all things that define my taste as well. I really, really love this book. And I know, like with the Chestnut Spring series, I just feel like a lot of people have different favorites. I know, obviously, Heartless is a lot of people's favorites. I know Reckless is a lot of people's favorites. Powerless was definitely mine. Once again, there were some scenes in here that I cannot stop thinking about. Actually, a scene that is pretty similar to one that was in here, but I just really love it. And then the last contemporary / sports romance is The Deal by Elle Kennedy. What I love about this and why this defines my taste is, once again, it has fake dating. It has a girl who, even though she's pretty attractive, she doesn't really know how to flirt with guys, how to get guys interested in her. Another thing that I can definitely relate to. This has a very, very sweet hero, even though this one is like starts off as arrogant and is obviously very much a ladies' man. When they become friends, he's just like the sweetest guy ever. Like, there's a scene in here where she tells him that she needs like sexual lessons because she's never orgasmed with another man ever since she was raped when she was 15. So he goes out of his way to research that and to really help her with that, just because they're friends. He's just like a very sweet guy. Once again, another tortured hero because his father is an abusive man, and even though he's big enough to fight him, so his dad doesn't abuse him anymore, he obviously has traumas associated with that. And even though he has to keep his GPA up, he has to obviously play hockey a lot. He also has to work a lot because even though his dad is a professional hockey player, he doesn't want to ask for money because of everything that happened in the past. Yeah. I love it. Once again, the deal is about Hannah and Garrett, and Hannah has a crush on this football player, but she doesn't really know how to go about getting his attention. But one day, Garrett wants her to tutor him, and she doesn't want to because she's the only one who got this high grade for this philosophy class. But then he realizes that she has a crush on somebody, so he tells her that if she fake dates him, since he's so popular, she'll be popular as well, she'll get noticed, and then the football player will notice her as well. So she reluctantly agrees, so she becomes his tutor, and through the tutoring, they become friends, and eventually they become more. And like I said, there's sex lessons in here. There's part where they're friends with benefits. This actually also reminds me of another thing I love, which is One Tree Hill. There's also obviously in the beginning this tutoring thing going on, which reminded me a little bit of this. And like I said, once again, with Twisted Games, I love when a book reminds me of something else I love. I really, really love One Tree Hill, especially the first 4 seasons. Especially Nayli is one of my favorites. So that's, I think, why I love sports romances. But also when it involves tutoring as well, like a smart girl and like a jock, that definitely gives me Nayli vibes. So this for sure defines my taste. Moving on to the fantasy romances, and both of them are Sarah J. Maas, which is no surprise. I do really love fantasy romance, but even though I have loved some of them too, and I've definitely given a lot of fantasy romances or romantices 5 stars, I haven't really found a true romantasy where I have become obsessed with them and could not put them down and could not stop thinking about it. So for now, it's just Sarah J. Maas. The first one is Throne of Glass. Even though this leans more towards young adult, especially in the beginning, this just 100% defines my taste because I have been reading Sarah J. Maas for 10 years now. I love her writing, I love her characters, and I just love everything about it. Like, especially the first couple Throne of Glass books define my taste because I always like badass heroines, and this one is definitely that. I like characters like Dorian, who's this prince, but there's definitely more to him than meets the eye, and he's a very funny character. But then throughout the series, he slowly becomes this tortured character, which once again, say less. I love that. I love actually that there's multiple romances in here, and almost like every book gives me a new romance, which obviously I love because I love romances. And I just love this whole fantasy world and setting. And it also like gives me all the emotions because especially like the Assassin's Blade, just looking at that book makes me want to cry. I love long running series. So this is a series with 7 books. Is that true? Well, technically 8 if you count all the novellas, stuff like that. So yeah, I just like Sarah J. Maas is my taste. Speaking of which, A Court of Mist and Fury. Obviously, I love this whole series, but especially Court of Mist and Fury 100% defines my taste. Because once again, a tortured hero with a very awful past. Like, he was a sex slave for 50 years, pretty much, which is just horrifying. Just everything that he's gone through. Like, we don't even know 10% of what this man has gone through. And I just, like, what we know is pretty horrific. I love the guy who seemingly is like this bad guy and not like this bad man, but in reality he is 100% one of the good ones. I love that romance. I also love like the slow burn of this, how they're slowly, especially she slowly coming to trust him, and she obviously also has a traumatic past, so the healing that goes on in this book is definitely my taste. Just everything about it is my taste. Even though it's not a lot in here, the sex scene in here is amazing and beautifully done. And the whole fated mates aspect is definitely my taste. I love that. I eat that shit up. I love fated mates. And I really love the found family in here, which is also one of the things I love about A Throne of Glass. I just love the found family trope. I love it. Like, I want to be part of that found family. It's so good. What can I say about it? A Court of Mist and Fury or A Court of Thorns and Roses that hasn't already been said. But once again, I really love the fact also that, I mean, obviously Sarah J. Maas has been known to do that, but the fact that she has loved somebody else, it's not just like, obviously with a lot of books, it's just the one guy and it's usually that first love. I love that with Sarah J. Maas, the heroines have loved and lost in the past before, which is something I love as well. I mean, obviously it's not fun, but it is pretty realistic. Now for the historical romances, I have really come to love historical romance in the last couple of years. It is one of my favorite subgenres. It makes me sad that it's not widely popular, especially not on Book Talk, but anyway, what can you do? I love them. The first one I want to talk about is The Viscount Who Loved Me by Julia Quinn. I love this because I love the banter in here. I love the hate to love in here. I love the guy determined not to fall in love, but then he falls in love with like the wrong girl. I love this strong, feisty heroine, and I love the banter in this book. This heroine is also funny, which I love. This book definitely made me laugh out loud a couple times. I love the shenanigans that go on in here. I love the big family in this book, or in this series. And I love like the whole the rakish hero. I don't know why I love that. I just do. It just makes me so happy. So this is obviously the second book in the Bridgerton series, and you follow Kate and Anthony. And Anthony's father died pretty young, and therefore he left his mom widowed, and they very much loved each other. So Anthony is convinced that he's gonna die young just like his father. He doesn't want to do that to like his wife, but since he's the heir, he needs to have children and he needs to have a wife and kids. So his plan is to marry somebody but never love them, and then he's gonna die young. He does want to court the most beautiful woman in the town. So, but her sister overhears him say all that, and she wants her sister to be the happiest she can be. So she doesn't want to do that to her sister, to get married to somebody who's never gonna love her. And since she's a little bit older and kind of like on the shelf, she has to accompany them everywhere. She's determined to get in their way in every way, shape, or form. And on their dates, her and Anthony are just constantly bickering and bantering and constantly push each other's buttons, and it's obvious that they have more chemistry than him and the sister. And this was so, I just love it. I love it so much, and I need to do a reread for it because it's a shame I've only read this once. My plan is to reread this year. It Happened One Autumn by Lisa Kleypas. So this is the second book in her Wallflower series, and once again, historical romance. What I love about this book is, or why it defines my taste, is once again a very feisty heroine, a very take charge, a heroine that does what she wants, and also a very funny heroine too. And this opposites attract romance I just love. Like she's like a wild child. He's prim and proper and buttoned up. It's a Grump Sunshine a little bit. He's a rule follower. She's most definitely not. And I love how they soften each other's edges. Like she softens his, you need to follow the rules all the time. She makes him let loose a little bit, and he tames her down a little bit. And that's why they work together so much. I love it. They're very, I also thought that they were very passionate and very hot together too. And you just wouldn't think that these two are a match, but they most definitely are. And that is definitely in my taste. I love that. So this, like I said, the second book in her Wallflower series, you follow Lillian and Marcus. And Lillian is this American heiress, and Marcus is this like earl or something. And they met in like the previous books, and he wasn't impressed by her at all. He found her in like the weirdest places doing the weirdest things, so he kept away from her. But then one day they have this passionate kiss and they can't stay away from each other. It's so good. I love it so much. Never Seduce a Scot by Maya Banks. This is, once again, it's my taste because this hero is so swoony. He is like the perfect man. He is so amazing. Like, I loved him so much. And this heroine is so sweet. Like, I just love them so much. And this is like a enemies to lovers, because their families are enemies. They're from rivaling clans, and they're called, like, his father was killed by her grandfather, stuff like that. Like, it is like bad blood between these families. And the reason they have to get married is actually because of the king is sick of these two families constantly fighting each other. When they're neighbors, he forces them to get married to each other. So obviously there's prejudices from both sides, although I'd have to say it's more from him to her family and his clan to her, whereas both of them are pretty interested in one another. And I also love the fact that, like, she is deaf, but everybody thinks that there's something, I don't know, wrong with her. They think that, like, she's mentally behind or there's something going on there, even though she's just deaf. She let everybody believe that because she was supposed to marry this awful man and she didn't want to do that. And because he thought that she was like touched in the head, he didn't want to marry her anymore. And I love the fact in this book that he's the only one that notices that there's something else going on. Like, even though her family loves her, they never paid that close attention to the fact. And he's the only one that really realizes, wait a minute, I think she's deaf and not that she's like touched in the head. Which is also, I love, like, a very caring, perceptive hero. And it's just like beautiful. This was such a beautiful romance, and I fell in love with it. So this is a story where, like I said, they're from two rivaling families. Like, I already told you why they got married. And when she was a little bit younger, she fell from her horse and she became deaf. And she just let everybody believe that she was touched in the head because she didn't want to marry this man. And now they have to... so they got married, and he thinks that the king has doomed him to a life of no heirs because, so he's the clan leader, because he would never cheat on his wife, but also he wouldn't force himself on a girl that cannot actually consent. Yeah, eventually, like I said, he realizes that there's more to it, and I really love her relationship with the rest of his family as well. It's just like, I love Scottish romances. I just love that, and beautiful, beautiful romance. And the last one is Married by Morning, once again by Lisa Kleypas. I do have to say, all of the books in the Hathaway series are definitely my taste, but Married by Morning is definitely my favorite. Once again, a very rakish hero. Once again, opposites attract. Once again, a hate to love. All the things that I love and are definitely my taste. In this book, you follow Leo and Kat is Leo's sister's companion. Like, she helps them get ready to get out in society and how they have to behave. And Leo, like I said, is a rakish hero, and he doesn't really care about a whole lot of things. This is also a very, very tortured hero, because the love of his life died years ago from Spanish fever, and because of that, he's just went off the rails. He's the type of guy that she wants to stay far, far away from, and he thinks that she's stuck up and no fun. They do have chemistry, and once again, like, there's an explosive kiss. Actually, in an earlier book, it's everything I love, everything that I love. Now, actually, a subgenre, and it's the historical romance / dark romance. I love it when historical romances mixes with another genre. Like, I love historical romance / paranormal romance. I love historical romance / fantasy romance, and I really love historical romance / dark romance. The first one is A Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. This is a very, very, very dark romance. But like I said, I love historical romance. I love dark romance. Once again, this is a forbidden romance. It is opposites attract. It is somebody that works like in law enforcement and a criminal. And what I really love also is how what they want in life is at complete odds with each other. Especially in this book, this is a pirate and a pirate hunter. She's the pirate, he's the pirate hunter, and he wants her hanged because she's a pirate, and she doesn't want to die, obviously, so she uses everything in her arsenal and all her womanly wiles to make sure that that doesn't happen. She actually has a husband too, which I'm not gonna spoil what's gonna happen with that dynamic, but she's been on the run for 2 years from her husband because he betrayed her, and she doesn't want anything to do with him, but he's been following her around and trying to get her to forgive him, and she doesn't want to do that. And then they get captured, and she sacrifices herself, so she gets imprisoned on the ship, but since she's the only female pirate, she cannot get locked up with all the other pirates, so she has to stay in his captain's quarters, Ashley's captain's quarters, and he has like these desires that are on the darker sides. Like, he loves spanking and stuff like that, and especially in this day and age, that was more taboo than it is nowadays. And she also likes those things. So that is a dark part of this book, but also there's like some horrifying things happening here. At one point she gets kidnapped and also like brutally raped. So definitely check your triggers before reading this, but this was so good. This was so good. And like the type of romance that this turns into is also my taste. So love this. I would say, so the next one is also a dark historical romance. If you're on the fence whether or not you like it, I would say start with this one and then go to this one, because this is like, you're gonna dive into the deep end, because Pam Godwin is first and foremost a dark romance author and not a historical romance, whereas in this case it's the other way around. Speaking of, The Highwayman by Kerrigan Byrne. So this follows a hero named Dorian, which is also my taste. But yeah, once again, a tortured hero, like very, very tortured. A very great heroine that I also fell in love with. The dark aspect in here is that, you know, he kidnaps her, then they get married, and especially while they're having sex, he cannot bear the touch of human skin, so he has to restrain her during sex. So once again, very dark, especially at that time. And once again, this is a criminal and somebody who works in law enforcement, so that is obviously also something I like. So this book actually starts very fairy tale-esque, which is also very much my taste. You follow Fairy and Dugan, and she's 8, he's 10, and she helps him because like his hand is injured because of a punishment. And they become fast friends, and they actually hand fast, so they actually technically get married when she's like 10, he's 12. But then one day, one of the teachers assaults her, and he actually kills him, and because of that, he gets sent to jail. He ends up dying after 10 years. She just goes through life as a widow and is not really that interested in falling in love with somebody else. And then one day, and she works at Scotland Yard, and one day, this infamous criminal named Dorian Blackwell, the Black Heart of Benmore, gets arrested. They're very intrigued with each other, and then he kidnaps her, and then he actually tells her that he knew Dugan in prison, and he wants revenge for everything that happened to Dugan in prison, and he wants her help to do so. They need to get married for romance reasons, so they do. But like I said, since he was also very young when he was sent to jail, so like everything that you can think of that is horrifying that can happen to a little boy happened to him. So it's very, very sad, and that is also one of where the dark romance comes in. They eventually fall in love, and I just love it. I just love it so, so, so much. I believe more books in this series are like dark historical romances, so very much looking forward to reading those. And the last category is paranormal romances. I love paranormal romances. It's one of my favorite subgenres, and I really hope with the release of Bride by Ali Hazelwood, it's gonna be a more mainstream genre again, because it used to be very popular in the early 2010s, and ever since, like, there are some long-running series that are still publishing books that have this like avid readership, but other than that, every once in a while a paranormal will get published, but they won't be as hyped as fantasy romances, for example, or contemporary romances or sports romances. So I really hope that it's going to be a little bit more mainstream. And the first one I want to talk about is one of those long-running series, and it's The Immortals After Dark. I'm not picking one particular book because I really love the whole series, because the whole series is definitely my taste. I love the strong heroines in this book. I love how in most books, these characters are so completely at different places where you think, no way can these two make it work. Like, either it's because their species are definitely mortal enemies, or it's because what they want in life is completely different, or one of them is having to use the other one for particular reasons, or I don't know, like, it doesn't matter. Usually you start the book where you think, how can this possibly end in an HCA, but Kresley Cole always does it. I also love the fated mates in here. Obviously, it's one of the reasons why paranormal is one of my favorites, and I love like the different paranormal creatures in here. So there are the ones that you know and love, like werewolves, like vampires, but there's also like demons, and there's Valkyries. Like, it's a very big paranormal world. And I love the fact that this is a long-running series, and characters do show up in each other's books. So once the HA is done, you know that you will see them in the future. And I love it. Like, especially the werewolves in here, I love werewolf romances. It's one of my, they are my favorite paranormal creature. And especially the werewolves in here, they're Scottish too. Like, please stop. Be still my beating heart. I love it. I just love it so, so much. And yeah, if you've not read this series, I would highly recommend it. The next one actually comes out this month, so I cannot wait. The Ex-Hex by Aaron Sterling. What I love about this is also a mix of genres. It's a paranormal, but also a contemporary. This reminds me of a mix between Charmed and Gilmore Girls, which once again, two of my favorite shows. A hero named Reese as well. And this is something that I want to happen. And obviously, like with The Immortals After Dark, even though I love it, it's not realistic. Whereas this is realistic. Like, even though there are witches in here, because it's set in such a contemporary setting, it is realistic for me to picture that this could happen in real life. And maybe it could happen to me. Oh, and it's also a second chance romance, which is also something I really love and definitely defines my taste. Follow Vivi and Reese, and they used to be together 9 years ago, and I think they were together for a couple months, but they really were in love until he betrays her. And now 9 years later, he has to return to this town because his family is like the founding family of this town. And when they broke up 9 years ago, she actually put a curse on him. And she always thought that curse didn't work, and it was just like because she used like a Bath and Body Works candle. But now that he's returned to this town, everything that can go wrong is going wrong. And Vivi realizes, oh shit, my curse actually did work. And now they have to work together to remove this curse from him. I love this book. I love this romance. It's very sweet. It's very simple, and it's very realistic to me. Like, I can definitely see, like, for example, once again, some of the other books I know, like, I'm never, like, this man, first of all, maybe I don't even want a man like him, but also, like, I could, like, that is not a realistic portrayal, or, like, he's a historical romance hero. In a contemporary setting, he's not going to behave that way. Whereas this did feel so realistic to me, even though they're witches. I would like a guy like him. He's funny, he's down to earth. I liked him very much, and I liked them together. And this was just like a fun, good time and definitely defines my taste. And I really want to read more of these types of books where it's, even though there are paranormal elements, it's mostly set in a contemporary setting. I always love that. And last but most certainly not least is Wolf Song by TJ Klune. Once again, a werewolf romance, Fated Mates, which is definitely my taste. It is found family, which I love. One of the reasons why werewolf romances work so well for me, it is that it's almost always combined with the found family trope because of the pack dynamic. I love the writing style in here too. I love the heartbreaking things that happen in this book. This is one of the few books that have made me cry. And this is like a book that I read it, and ever since then it has never been far from my mind, which also definitely defines my taste. Like I love, like books need to stick with me. These characters need to feel real to me. That is just something I really love. This book is a male-male romance following a werewolf and a human, and they first met when Joe the werewolf was 10 and Ox the human was 16. Joe immediately smells that Ox is his mate, but obviously since he's 10 and Ox is 16, nothing happens. They're just friends. And then once Joe is older, feelings do start developing. But then something tragic happens and Joe has to leave town for 3 years. And that is just like heartbreak on top of heartbreak on top of heartbreak. And then eventually they do finally get together. And once they do, that HEA is so hard earned. That HEA is so sweet. I love that. Like you almost forget all the pain, all the hurt. Yeah, this is the start of the series. So I love how in the other books in the series, even though I've only read the second book, you see them happy and in love. I just love that because this is definitely for now my favorite in the series. So yes, those were the 15 books that define my taste. Definitely let me know in the comments below if some of these books also define your taste. And if not, I would really love to know the books that define your taste. Leave all your thoughts in the comments below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know by leaving a like if you did. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day and I'll talk to you later. Bye.